business leaders and others to Harlem, November 16th, 17th, and 18th. And we're gathering our people from all across the United States for a conference that is really designed to move the needle forward for Black people. And I really want to encourage us to be a part of that. Come out, be a part of this. Let us, my brothers and sisters, come together now and move the needle forward for Black people. God bless you, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay, we're getting ready to hear the President General. But before then, we have to hear Dr. Umar. Please give it up for Dr. Umar.
New York City, make some noise one time, family. How we doing? It's an honor to be here once again with my New York City family. I remember 13 years ago coming to New York for the first time at 125th and 5th, the National Black Theater. 13 years had went so quickly, and I'm glad to be back here with you again. Tonight, we come together to celebrate the greatest Pan-Africanist of all time, the greatest human organizer in recorded history, and the greatest Black leader of the 20th century, the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Make some noise for Marcus Garvey tonight, brothers and sisters. You know, this Pan-African story is a very long story. Some people trace the beginning to the Haitian revolutions. Others, like myself, I say Pan-Africanism is as old as Africa because we've always traveled the world and we always sought to reestablish contact with our brothers and sisters, our brethren, across the continents. But after the Haitian Revolution ends, a few decades later, we get a great Black man by the name of Dr. John Brown Rushworm, born in Jamaica, one of the first Black men to get a college degree in the United States of America. He went on from right here in New York City, and he published Freedom's Journal along with a Delawarean Black man, Samuel Cornish. And Freedom's Journal became the first Black newspaper in America published by a Pan-Africanist. John Brown Rushworm was one of the first to raise the cry of Africa for the Africans. He decided to repatriate to Africa. He ended up in Liberia, where he spent the rest of his life, or at least most of it. A few decades after John Brown Rushworm, we get a handful of Pan-Africanists. Amongst them, Martin Robinson Delaney, or should I say Major Dr. Martin Robinson Delaney. One of the first Black men to publish a newspaper in this country. Martin Delaney was the first uniform officer in the Civil War, one of the first Black men to be nominated as Vice President of the United States by a major party, and one of our first Grandmaster Masons. Martin Delaney, who came up with the phrase Africa for the Africans. Marcus Garvey would pick that phrase up years later, and he would add to Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. We also get the Reverend Henry Holland Garnett, who pastored a church right here in New York, who escaped from slavery down in Kent County, Maryland, one county away from our cousin, the great Frederick Douglass, whose gravesite I'll be visiting tomorrow morning in Rochester, New York. But Henry Holland Garnett was a staunch Pan-Africanist. He recruited for the Civil War. He also felt that trying to get the U.S. Congress to pass the 13th Amendment was a waste of time. He wanted to arm enslaved Africans to fight for their own freedom. Him and Frederick Douglass had a great debate at a Buffalo conference on abolitionism, and Frederick Douglass won the debate by only 2 votes. Had Henry Holland Garnett won that vote, slavery may have ended earlier because they would have voted to arm the enslaved Africans. Also, is Dr. Alexander Crummell, one of the fathers of Black social work, right across the bridge from New Jersey, one of the first Black Episcopalian ministers in this country. Alexander Crummell went to Africa and gave 20 years of his life to Africa. And then he came back, lost a child over there, and he built one of the first institutions of higher learning for Black men in America, the American Negro Academy. W.E.B. Du Bois was one of his mentors. And then we also had Edward Wilmot Blyden from St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, who came to America to go to seminary school, but he wasn't allowed in seminary So he ends up in Liberia, where he becomes Secretary of State, one of the greatest intellectuals we produced until W.E.B. Du Bois, and he ultimately transitioned and he's buried in Sierra Leone. And then that next generation of Pan-Africanists comes along. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, who's the first black man, one of the first black men on American soil to say that God was a black man, who called the red, white, and blue flag a stinking dirty rag on the floor of the Georgia State Legislature. Henry Holland Garnett would leave us around 1915. He would transition, and of course we have to include Booker T. Washington in that pantheon of great Pan-Africanists. Booker T. Washington had the conference on the African Conference on the Negro, or the American Conference for the African at Tuskegee Institute way before Marcus Garvey came to America. A lot of people think the Honorable Marcus Garvey only came to America because he wanted to build a Tuskegee in Jamaica. That's not true. Booker T. Washington was already pushing the Pan-African agenda. Booker T. Washington was invited by Henry Sylvester Williams to speak at the first Pan-African Congress in 1900, and although he could not make it, he advertised and propagated for the first Pan-African Congress. Booker T. Washington was a Pan-Africanist. And then for a while, Pan-Africanism kind of went under the radar for a while. And then all of a sudden, on a boat ride back to Jamaica, Marcus Garvey finds Booker T. Washington's book, Up From Slavery, and he reads it. And it's that book from a Pan-Africanist, Booker T. Washington, that inspired another Pan-Africanist in the Honorable Marcus Garvey to build the largest black organization in modern history, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. So Marcus Garvey launches the organization in Jamaica. He ends up coming to America after he travels throughout the Caribbean, Central and South America, and he comes right here to New York City. But what Marcus Garvey didn't know, that there was another Pan-Africanist by the name of W.E.B. Du Bois, who had a different kind of a Pan-Africanism, but still a Pan-Africanist, who felt that it was his time to lead the African race. And so when Booker T. Washington transitioned, W.E.B. Du Bois thought that it was his time. And so as he prepares to mount the stage of leadership in Black America, before he can even hoist his voice and put out his slogan, Marcus Garvey gets off the banana boat in New York City and says, "Up, up, up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will and organize more black people than any black organization you know, and most of them put together." What Marcus Garvey did has still not been surpassed. A mass movement of millions stretching upon every single continent. Every community with a major black population was with a chapter of the Garvey movement. He did it without a cell phone. He did it without the internet. He did it without Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. That's what the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey did, brothers and sisters. We look at it now and we marvel. How could a man do it? But I say Marcus Garvey did something very great, but I say that it's up to us to make it even greater. Because it is our job to get even greater, to build, to move even further than Garvey pushed. When we talk about Garveyism, we talk about the highest stage of revolutionary Pan-African nationalism. And just to give a couple points on revolutionary Pan-African nationalism, we believe as Garveyites, number one, and these are in no order at all, but we believe in African identity. We are an African people. The word Africa does not come from the white man. The word Africa does not come from the European. The word Africa is an indigenous name for African people that comes from the continent itself. We can never give up being African, because Africa is ours. Africa is our birthright. That is our history. That is our culture. That is our language. That is our land. We can never stop being African. Be careful about people who come across and try to convince you you are not African, you are Native American, or you are this, or you are that. We're older than all of that and then some, brothers and sisters. Never give up your right to being black. Never give up your right to being an African. We believe that your God should look like you. I don't care what your religion is. As Pan-Africanists, we believe in freedom of religion, but let the God look like you. Stop raising black boys and girls worshiping a white man or a white woman or a tan man or a tan woman. Every God in antiquity was black. Reject any God that doesn't look like the black God of Africa, brothers and sisters. Don't be afraid to see divinity in your own self. We believe in African racial pride, that we should be proud to be black. It's not just enough to know who you are. You have to be convicted about who you are. You have to love who you are. sisters, we know there's a political election coming up next year. At the end of 2024, the presidential election, black people are trying to decide, are we going to vote Democrat? Are we going to vote Republican? The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey would say, don't vote for either. Build your own political party. Build your own political union. Get off the Republican plantation. Get off the Democratic Party plantation. Get off the Green Party plantation. Brothers and sisters, we need economic power. We are a true $2 trillion people. We're the richest group of Africans in the world when it comes to take-home pay. But where's our banks? Where's our hospitals? Where's our supermarkets? Where's our independent schools? Where's our distribution network? Where's our military, brothers and sisters? What are we sitting around waiting for? Waiting for the white man to do for you what you need to do for yourself. God will never bless black people until black people start to bless themselves. Until we create a world where black children can be proud to be black, we'll never get respect from Almighty God. And our ancestors are so disappointed in us. Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth and Fannie Lou Hamer and Ida B. Wells, Malcolm and King and Medgar and Huey, they so disappointed in us. All this college education, all this money, all these degrees, and nothing to show for it. What good is a new car? What good is a house in a white suburb if you can't even protect your child's life walking down the street? Brothers and sisters, we need power. It's okay to know the law, but the law don't mean nothing if you ain't got no power. It's okay to have a college education. I got 6 degrees, but it means nothing without power. And if we got to have power, we got to come together. And the only way you make power is through mass organization. Marcus Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization, brothers and sisters. Chinese are not smarter than black people, they're more organized. Jews are not smarter than black people, they're more organized. Arabs are not smarter than black people, they're more organized. Latinos are not smarter than black people, they're more organized. Brothers and sisters, we look around the world, what do we see? The Chinese looking for a way to take over the planet. The Russians looking for a way to take over the planet. Israel looking for a way to take over the planet. India looking for a way to take over the planet. And look at us, sitting down waiting for Jesus to come do it for us. Waiting for Muhammad to come do it for us. Ain't nobody going to save black people from black people. God don't work for you. God works through you, brothers and sisters. As Pan-Africanists, we believe that as Africa goes, so goes all African people. Black America will never be free till Africa is free. The Caribbean will never be free until Africa is free. Central and South American Africans will never be free until Africa is free. One of the reasons we haven't made more progress since Dr. King's era is we stopped connecting the domestic American African fight to the continental African fight. We are not separate groups of tribes. We are one race, one African race, and we have to think and plan and organize as a race. Marcus Garvey said, put the race first, not your religion, not your church, not your mosque, not your fraternity, not your community organization, not your Masonic order. Put the African race first, because until we put the race first, black people will be last. As Pan-Africanists, we believe that we have to educate our own children. During his time, the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey had the Booker T. Washington University and the Liberty University and so many other schools operated by various divisions of the Garvey movement. Brothers and sisters, if you really want to know what the people think about themselves, look at how they let other people treat their children. And look at how we let people treat our children. They transgenderizing our babies right in front of our face. They homosexualizing our babies right in front of our face. I'm not talking about adult people and what you choose to do in your bedroom. That's your business. But I think we can all agree that 5 and 6 and 7-year-old children should not be brainwashed into same-sex relationships before they're even old enough to have sex, brothers and sisters. But it's not going to stop. It's going to get worse. Help me understand how in New York City, when half the black boys in the 4th grade can't read on grade level, they got time to teach gay sex. Help me understand in New York City, where half the black boys in the 8th grade can't count on grade level, but they got time to teach gay sex. Help me understand, with so few of our young people graduating on time, if they graduate at all, how how did you find time in the curriculum to squeeze in a lesson on gay sex? Brothers and sisters, we got to build our own schools. These are our children. Education is our responsibility. And speaking of building our own schools, about 9 years ago, we started raising money to build a school. And when we started taking that money, we got some pushback from some jealous, envious Negroes across the black community. But we stayed with it, brothers and sisters. And then in 19, we purchased a school in Wilmington, Delaware. And we still caught a lot of hell even after purchasing 4 beautiful buildings. And we went from black contractor to black contractor. And we got scammed and we got taken advantage of. And we got robbed and vandalized. And everything that can happen to you trying to open up a school happened to us. But one day the ancestors smiled on us. And they said, Dr. Umar, don't worry about it. You just keep on going. We're going to take care of the rest. And that's exactly what I did. So last week on August the 11th of 2023, we completed the renovations of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey RPG International Leadership Academy. I don't talk Garvey, I walk Garvey. I don't talk Garvey, I live Garvey. I don't talk Garvey, I am Garvey. So brothers and sisters, I want you to know that before the year's out, we're going to have a community grand opening in Wilmington, Delaware at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And I want all my supporters and all my donors and all my true Garveyites and all my true revolutionary Pan-Africanists to come on down to Wilmington, Delaware, where Marcus Garvey incorporated the Black Star Line, where Bob Marley used to spend his summer vacations, where Frederick Douglass escaped from Baltimore to New York from slavery through Wilmington, Delaware, where Harriet Tubman used to come and get money from Thomas Garrett of Wilmington, Delaware, the last slave state before our ancestors crossed over into the free state of Pennsylvania, and we will be freeing black minds. That's a re-Africanization academy down there. We're going to start with the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade brothers and sisters next year. And every year we're going to add a grade up, and we're going to add a grade down. So the 2nd year will be 1st through 5th, and the 3rd year will be K through 6th, and the 4th year will be pre-K through 7, and the 5th year will be K through 8, and that gives us enough time to get the Honorable Frederick Douglass High School renovated across the street. And once we get the whole Wilmington campus up and running, I want an FDMG Brooklyn, I want an FDMG Staten Island, I want an FDMG Harlem, I want an FDMG Queens. Brothers and sisters, we got to put the schools all over the place. None of us can do it all, but we can all do something. And my humble contribution to the revolutionary Pan-African freedom struggle is to become the first superintendent of a truly global Pan-African school district, brothers and sisters. Marcus Garvey said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in a race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Mr. Garvey said, men in earnest are not afraid of consequences. Marcus Garvey said, the only protection against injustice in this world is power. And the black man and woman must get it. However we must get it, we need power. Scientific, military, political, intellectual, social, and spiritual. Brothers and sisters, Marcus Garvey was a God-fearing man. The Garvey movement wasn't based on no religion, because there's no need to base it on religion, because black people belong to every religion under the sun. Base it on culture, base it on common ancestry, base it on consciousness, but we don't need to base it on religion. Let people pray how they want to pray, but let's be about the business of African nation building and racial reconstruction. I close with a quote from my ancestor Frederick Douglass, whose grave I get to visit tomorrow, and I can't wait to get to Mount Hope Cemetery in Rochester and let my 4 times great-grand-cousin know that the school is finally done once and for all. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom let them appreciate agitation, or like men who want crops without blowing up the ground. They want the rain but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean but they're scared of the awful roar of the water. He said a man may not get all he pays for, but you will pay for everything that you get. And if we as a people are ever to become free of the injustices inflicted upon us, we will have to pay for that freedom. We may have to pay with words, we may have to pay with blows, we may have to pay with our life. But he who wants to be free must himself strike the first blow. Cousin Frederick said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God for freedom. But the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity. through some hell. We're going to have a lot of long, dark days ahead of us. You see what's happening in this country. They're trying to push you out of New York City with migrants right now, paying for migrants to stay in a hotel when you got homeless black people giving jobs to migrants, when you got homeless black people giving health care to migrants, when you got homeless black people. It ain't right. But you know what the good news is? We can stop it if we just come together. If we just make up our minds that we are tired of being dead last and we're ready to be first, we can fix this whole thing. Because the Bible tells you, and I'm not a Christian, but the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And once we make up our mind that we're tired of being at the back and we're ready to be up front, the ancestors will be with us. Black Power, New York City, I love you. One love.
He was getting the better of the U.S. attorney. And while getting the better of the U.S. attorney, the U.S. attorney stood up and said, "Are you going to let the tiger go?" They said, "Are you going to let the tiger go?" They locked up Mr. Garvey. Federal penitentiary in Atlanta. He knew they were going to kill him in prison, so he sent a letter. He sent a letter. But at the end he said, "You have caged a tiger, but my cubs are roaming." Aren't we seeing some of Mr. Garvey's cubs right here tonight? Aren't we seeing some of his cubs right here tonight that we're thankful for? So the letter goes like this. It said, "After my enemies are satisfied, black people, I shall come back to serve." He said, "In life I shall be the same, but in death I shall be a terror to the force of black liberty. If death has power, count on me to be the real Marcus Garvey. If I may come in a cyclone, pestilence, or a God love me, don't you know I shall never desert you and make your enemies triumph over you? Would I not go to hell 1,000,000 times for you? Would I not cry at the footstool of the Lord omnipotent for you? Would I not walk the earth like the ghost of my brethren?" Then why he said, "Cheer up and be assured that if it takes 1,000,000 years, the sins of our enemies shall visit the 1,000,000 generation of those who hinder and oppress us." Black people, if I die in Atlanta, my work then shall only begin. For I shall live in the spiritual to see the days of Africa's glory. Look for me in the whirlwind. Look for me in the storm. Look for me all around you. And when I am dead, wrap me in the mantle of the red, the black, and the green. For I shall rise again and bring with me countless millions who have died in the Caribbean, North America, and Africa to aid us in the fight for freedom, liberty, and life. Brothers and sisters, the work is still here, but what's happening? We're not getting our children involved anymore. That's why I'm so thankful for the children who are here tonight. We have to teach them and we have to guide them. This is not by chance anymore. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Duncan. I'm the 10th successor to the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, meaning the 11th President General. I don't have to create anything for myself. Everything that I needed was created and left in the Black Prince by the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and our ancestors. But if we don't bring our children in the movement, we are losing out. Justin, how are you? You ready to recite something for me? Come on. Jonathan, where are you? Jonathan. Andrew. We have to get the children involved. We have to get them to know and love and understand race first. Where's Andrew? How you young brothers doing? Y'all want to recite the pledge for me? You pledge your loyalty to black people, right? You spread your pledge your loyalty to black children. Brothers and sisters, when we're gone, who's going to carry on the movement? We can talk all these nonsense. It's easy to talk. Anybody can talk. But what are we doing with our children? They say you can judge a community based on what it does for its children. Marcus, come on up here. Whenever we start, we must pay respect to the flag. The flag was